He's a hoot and a holler, and I love seeing the tweets when he goes to events and conferences. And I haven't seen any overheard at SMTULSA, so hopefully he had some from events that overheard conversations, and they were some really fantastic ones. So hopefully you haven't said anything you don't want Eric to tweet. So without further ado, Eric.
Thank you. So I've been told I am the only person that stands between you guys and liquor, so I'll try and make it fast. Unless you've met with Becky today, in which case you could probably get started on your party a little early. So I called my session "What the Crap is Next for Social Media" because that kind of is the feeling that most people have whenever they get some random, like, Facebook feed change, right? That kind of thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about 6 megatrends to expect. So my name's Eric T-Tung. I am the person that decided to put all the important information for this presentation at the bottom, and I also set up the projector so that no one can see anything at the bottom. So I threw in this extra slide so you can see, hey, I'm Eric T-Tung. You can download this presentation at erict.co/SMTULSA, all caps. I uploaded it 2 days ago. It was on SlideShare's front page for about a day. So go SMTULSA, woo, right here. So what I'm going to tell you. Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to know, that little box over there is audio inputs. I've been wondering what those have been all day. But first of all, where social media's been, what we've gone through to get to this point today, what the future of social media looks like, and I have 6 particular trends that we're going to examine. So first, social network consolidation, what it means when someone like Facebook takes over, your Instagram or your WhatsApp and that kind of thing. Also, social tool aggregation. So we see a bunch of different social tools starting to take each other over. Most recently, Hootsuite took over Uberview, that kind of thing. Crowdsourcing, not only just putting dollars out there to try and get like website design or logo design, but what that means for the bigger trends. Also, the sharing economy. So we've got something like Airbnb. What does that mean about how people are about their privacy these days, right? Like, what does that mean that you will open up your guest room to some random person that wants to pay you $50? Big data, how people are getting huge amounts of data now from customers and how you can analyze that to the best, to come up with some great conclusions that you can use for marketing. And finally, quantified self, and how people use all these different gadgets to really get info on themselves that they can use to measure different things. I'll show you what it means. So first of all, where has social media been? As early as 2009, Dell generated $6.5 billion in sales directly from Twitter. And in 2009, I think most of us are still like, well, people probably didn't even know what Twitter was, right? So, exactly. 2009 as well, everyone's favorite company, Comcast. I think this is the Cox area, right? So, but Comcast helped over 150,000 customers through Twitter at Comcast Care. And they actually did it really interestingly. They went out and proactively found people that were complaining about Comcast without mentioning, mentioning them on Twitter. So if you said, hey, my Comcast cable box sucks, and you didn't mention them directly, they would still find out who you were and then get back to you to address your problem. In Europe, Ford sent Fiestas to the top 100 bloggers in Europe for a year before the car came out. They generated 31,000 pieces of content and 60% awareness before the car was even sold. So, what are kind of the two extremes, right? You can go out and do like a multi-million-dollar ad campaign to generate that awareness, or you can give cars to a whole bunch of people that are influential. And it really kind of speaks to the power of influencers these days. How can you think about that when it comes to your own product, your own company? And in 2010, the Red Cross raised $5 million from 500,000 donors in 2 days after the Haitian earthquake. It might not actually be from 500,000 donors because they're like teenagers that were texting like 200 times, not realizing that that money came out of like their parents' phone bill. They're like, oh, I thought that just came from somewhere. You know, I was trying to make it. I was trying to throw in some extra bucks. Social networking is huge. If social networks were countries in the world, they would be 5 of the top 12 largest countries in the world. And that doesn't include the Chinese networks that would add another 3. After Instagram here, you would have Russia with 143 million people in their population right now. Not including Crimea. Hope I'm not offending any Ukrainians. The social landscape is changing, right? You don't have Justin Bieber fans that make up the bulk of your social media people. And this kind of speaks to that, right? So it says, you kiss day with your cloud computers and googly ducks. In my day, we attached files to our emails and we liked it that way. And this guy over here says, Dave, you're like 2 years older than me. And it used to be, you know, these guys used to be, you know, maybe like 20 and 22 or 25 or something. And that age now is getting higher and higher. So the average Facebook user is not 16. Anyone have any guesses what the average Facebook user age is?
45.
45.
Pretty close. Not 22. 42, exactly. So the largest or the fastest growing demographics on Facebook are 45 to 54, and on Twitter and Google Plus, it's even higher than that. 55 is. I know. By the way, if you're 40, if you're like 42, I know that's not what a 42-year-old looks like. The media landscape is changing. So how are people using media? If you take a look at what media consumption looks like, over here in the far left, you've got 1900, and you spent less than 10 hours a week on media, right? And since then, that's kind of stayed a little bit steady, right? So the new media is actually adding more onto what we already used to use. So we, you know, it was print, cinema, analog radio, and then we have like analog TV, right, and digital TV and internet. And those didn't take away from the newspaper and stuff, right? They actually added on to it. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about your media purchases, that kind of thing. And you can really see it in just a few years. If you take a look at when Benedict was sworn in, I don't know, like, I'm not Catholic, so his first mass or whatever, this is what the crowd looked like. When Francis was brought in 2013, that's what it looked like. Bush, 01, his inaugural ball, right? Obama 13. So, you know, people really are changing the way that they, you know, absorb media. Some research even shows that there might not be newspapers in the U.S. by 2017. That's just a few years away. Into the rest of the world by about 2040. And they don't mean like no newspapers at all. I mean, you might have your big few, your USA Today and New York Times and stuff. But you can see it, like, you know, the big guys are already like closing down shop, right? There's a bunch of newspapers going down to weeklies instead of dailies. A bunch of them going to digital instead of print. And you know, technology is making people antisocial. You know, it's always kind of been that way, right? So here's a whole bunch of your newspaper readers on a train in the 1900s. It kind of speaks to that there. This was a quote from Rick Kaplan just at South by a couple weeks ago. Broadcast TV will be dead in 5 years. Who's Rick Kaplan? Former president of CNN, ABC News, and MSNBC. So what does that mean? It kind of goes to the same fact. This is a chart from 2009 to 2010 of people's web-based email use. So over here in the left column, we have 12 to 17-year-olds decreased their email use, web-based email use, 60% pretty much. That means people are no longer, or, you know, teenagers are no longer using Yahoo, Gmail, right, all those things. And you see a decrease all the way up to 54-year-olds. And why is that? They're using text, right? They're using Facebook. There's even colleges now that do not give you an email address when you enroll at the university because they know that you already have ways of communicating with people. You don't need, they don't need to make that investment in the technology to give you an additional email you're not going to use, right? And how did messages travel before technology? It was word of mouth, right? So if you had a good experience, you probably told a few people, and they might have told a few more people, right? And since then, it's been word of mouth. So you can, and I'm sure everyone's experienced this before, right? You've had your, maybe your troll, or maybe like a really good advocate where, they would write, seriously, in like 2 buttons, you can publish to multiple social networks and have it go out to thousands of people, right? So that really kind of speaks to the importance of being on top of those networks. If you're not out there, then you're missing a lot of the conversation. Scott Cook says, a brand is no longer what we tell the consumer it is what consumers tell each other it is. And you can see that come through, right? If you need to go out and get a new iPhone case, you're not going to go to you could go to Amazon and see what other people said to buy, right? But you probably wouldn't go look up a catalog, flip through pages and see what manufacturers said, right? You'd go on Facebook and you'd say, hey, I need an iPhone case. This is what I have. What do you recommend, right? And that's exactly what he's speaking to. And what that means is you're part of the conversation. And Dragonfly Media kind of says the same thing too. Companies can no longer control the message, but they can control the results if they're aware of which channels of communication their audience is using, right? And what are those channels these days? They're going to be all pretty much digital. So what's next for social? I've got 6 big trends for you. Number 1, social media consolidation. So you see like Facebook, right? Took over Instagram, took over WhatsApp. $15 billion for WhatsApp. That's like huge, right? Google Plus took over YouTube, Blogger, Earthfit, and they took over, or they started up Google Plus. Twitter started to Vine, and kind of Yahoo took over Tumblr, Condé Nast took over Reddit. Both of those last 2 were a little bit kind of a weird culture fit, right? Because Yahoo is very friendly, like family friendly and everything. Tumblr can very not be sometimes. Same thing with Condé Nast, right? They're like an old stuffy publisher, right? They do Vogue and Vanity Fair and New Yorker Magazine, stuff like that. Reddit is totally not that. So it's been kind of an interesting shift to see that go together. But what does that mean for you guys, right? Here's a little look at what the mergers look like. So we have Facebook down here at the bottom, and here's WhatsApp. The size of the bubble, corresponding to how much they spent on that. Instagram was only $1 billion. YouTube was only 1.6 billion. So it kind of speaks to something and say, hey, they spent $15 billion on this company, that they really kind of see, a rise in that type of communication. What does it mean? Well, networks will continue to merge, right? You'll keep seeing that. But at the same time, these networks will offer cross-sharing and cross-posting, right? So you check in on Foursquare somewhere, you can cross-post that straight over to your Facebook, and you don't even have to judge anything, right? What does that mean for marketers? If you say on Facebook that you like Aerosmith because it's cool, but you actually checked in over at the stadium when Miley Cyrus was there, that could actually mean something to marketers. But at the same time, how long will it be until Facebook offers you the opportunity to, go into that? And we'll talk about that in big data in a second. And also, smaller networks will probably lose out, or kind of die off, or try and get acquired. I guess MySpace is a smaller network now. What can you do? Being social is even more important than ever before, right? Because you need to kind of get out there into some of those networks to make sure that you're well represented. You want to add social sharing to your private pages, blog posts, web pages, because as you have those networks, people are starting to expect you to be able to automatically integrate with different services, right? So you go to American Eagle, actually I think that's the next thing. But basically, add social sharing to your products, your blog posts, your web pages. Be on alert also When Twitter took over TweetDeck, they dropped lots of services. You know, you used to be able to post to like Facebook and LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. And they dropped their mobile phone app altogether. So kind of, if you're a Wildfire apps user, Google took them over. They are no longer accepting new customers. End of 2015, they're going to close down that platform too. So you have to kind of keep in mind and be on top of trends in the acquisition space to make sure that you don't get kind of blindsided, right? Here's American Eagle. They have a kind of a standard product page, but what's really cool is you have this little like button here that will actually flow over to your Facebook page. You can share it on Google+, tweet it, pin it, or email it. But in addition to that, down at the bottom of the page, there's some extra stuff in here I cut out. But you can then follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I guess that's like their own thing. But then, you can like them too. And so there's, they have multiple places on each page where you can either share the product itself or join them at a corporate level by following them on the different networks. So think about how you can incorporate that kind of into your own websites. Number 2, social tool integration. You have like Hootsuite and Buffer, and they all kind of consistently add networks, right? So Google Plus is the new thing. There's still people trying to figure out how to deal with that API. But what does this mean for users? Well, if you have any old school IM people here, you remember when AOL Instant Messenger, ICQ, and Yahoo Messenger were all separate platforms and you couldn't talk to each other, right? ICQ, right?
Yeah.
Anyone else have like a 7-digit, 6-digit ICQ number? Yeah, wow, okay, cool. So, yeah, and then Trillium came around, and they made it so you could integrate all 3 platforms into the same chat panel, right? And you're seeing a lot of that now come around with a lot of the different social media tools as well. So we've got like Bottlenose, and they try and aggregate a bunch of different feeds and figure out where trends are within your social sphere. And then you have things like If and Zapier, or maybe if your French is like Zapier, perhaps. And they use APIs between social networks to automate that collaboration. And these tools can actually integrate into the real world, and I'll show you how that works here. So these are just a few of the 70-some-odd services that they offer. And they're really cool because, like, you can come in here and you can say, I ride a motorcycle. We only have like 1 car in the family, so if I need to go somewhere, it's usually on the motorcycle. I can tell their weather app to say, if it's going to rain tomorrow, send me an SMS to tell me it's going to rain, right? And it automates it for me. So I'll get this little text message that says, hey, we think it's going to rain tomorrow, and that's it. You can make it so if you update your Facebook avatar, it automatically updates your Twitter. You can do it so if someone tags you on a Facebook image, that automatically uploads into your Dropbox account. So there's a whole bunch of cool different ways that you can integrate that in through IFT and Zapier. But in addition to that, there's real world like inputs and outputs too. So that brings that digital space kind of into your actual, living space, right? So you've got Belkin, they've got all these different devices. I think they're like 50, 60, 70 bucks a piece or so. But you have like motion detectors. So you can actually have a motion detector out in the garage where the cat box is, and you can have it so that every time your cat goes and uses the cat box, it sends a little message to your... Well, yeah. Well, okay, so like, exactly, like if you have a dog or something that doesn't want to train or go out or something, right? Even if you have doggy doors, there you go. You want to make sure, hey, it's been 3 hours since the dog went outside, maybe I should let it go, right? You can do it so that every time your blog gets a new comment, I want you to turn a light on in the corner of the room. That's kind of cool. Or when different blogs update, maybe you have a Philips Hue that changes color. You can change the different colors in the light in your room. So that's kind of neat. What can you do? You can use some of these tools to automate some of your social media processes, right? So, how many people here are, pretty much like sole owner, employer, or employee of your company, kind of? Any like agency people? Any people that are like the marketing person within the larger group? So yeah, I mean, like no one has time to do anything, right? There's always something to do. So you can use a lot of these tools to help kind of automate some of those little pieces so that you don't have to spend so much time on, you know, making sure that you have to post something every day, right? Be aware of those acquisitions and how they can affect your business. And also, little plug, come check out my 10:30 session tomorrow in the other room. I'm Not a Robot, How to Handle Multiple Social Media Accounts with Social Media.
Yes.
Number 3, crowdsourcing. What is crowdsourcing? Dr. Darren C. Brabham, I actually went to high school with this guy, literally wrote the book on crowdsourcing. So, and he defines it as an online distributed problem-solving and production model. What does that mean? So you've got like CrowdSpring, and they have a cool little setup where you can pay like $250, $300, and they kind of throw it out there to a bunch of designers and say, hey, you know, who wants this money? Design a whole bunch of logos, and you might end up being rewarded the, you know, the allocation, right? They're the. So here's the Madison Children's Museum. They got 749 entries in 14 days, and this is the one that they ended up picking. And you can do like websites and print and a whole bunch of other stuff there. So if you're designers and you're not on this platform, maybe consider that. Or if you're businesses and you need to figure out how to get a new logo for $300 and have, you know, they have 150,000 people on the platform now. So you know, you'll probably find a design that you like. Kickstarter, everyone knows Kickstarter. You know, crowdfunding campaigns. Here's Pebble, a little digital customizable watch. They went and tried to get $100,000. They ended up getting $10 million, right? So that's pretty awesome. Someone's probably got a new yacht or something. More recently, crowdsourcing search and rescue, right? They uploaded all of the satellite imagery for the Malaysian Airlines flight, or the like sea around it, and it's mostly this, right? It's like 99% of like just a whole bunch of blue ocean. But you can actually go in there, and if you see stuff that's interesting, you can mark it. You can say, hey, I think I see an oil slick, or airplane perked, or something interesting. Comes, you know, you can actually flag it, and someone else will go in and check that out later. And one of the reasons I like woke up at 2 o'clock this morning was because CNN had some new coverage of, they found other stuff. Is anyone like totally like obsessed with the news coverage for some reason? Yeah. Okay, so how can you apply this to your business though, right? So Starbucks came out with a website, it's called My Starbucks Idea. You got 50,000 new product ideas, right? I mean, like, you do that all the time. You go to Starbucks and you're like, I don't like this drink, I don't like that drink. They should like mash them together or something, right? And they did, like the Frappuccino actually started from like one particular barista in California that was like mixing up their own stuff. So consider how you can take that into your own company and kind of allow your customers to help you pick colors or fabrics or product names or sandwich ingredients or whatever applies to your group there. So involve customers in your product creation, right? It involves them, you can involve them in your branding as well, and they'll feel like they're part of the team. They'll feel like they're kind of invested in your company. And the best part is you're like, you know, the other opponents, competitors. That's the word. It's kind of late, right? So yeah, your other competitors stuff will not be doing that, so you'll gain that extra little edge on top of them. The sharing economy. 100 years ago, into thousands of years ago, what did you have to do if you wanted to bake a cake? You either had to have your chicken and wheat and cows to make your cake, or you had to like barter for it, right? 50 years ago, it kind of flowed into the manufacturing economy. You can go to the store and buy all the ingredients. You don't actually have to raise the cow yourself. No offense to Becky over here. 25 years ago, it was a service economy. You can go to Walmart and buy yourself a sheet cake. Sometimes the quality is not so great. Best wishes, Suzanne. Underneath that, we will miss you. But now you don't even have to have your own kitchen, right? You can go out and say, hey, someone else make this cake for me. Now it's kind of the experience economy, right? You can go, you don't even need to have a house. You go pay someone $250 and you get to have your birthday party. You probably never even saw the cake before it came out, right? But flowing into the future, what's the future look like? It's really kind of the sharing economy, right? And it kind of started when, in the economic downturn, there were a whole bunch of people that had stuff that probably they couldn't really afford, right? They had an extra bedroom or whatever. And then you also had the other people that wanted to use that stuff that they couldn't afford to have bought in the first place, right? So you have people like Airbnb here renting out like your guest room, right? And it's actually not a bad setup, right? So I was flying into San Francisco for Dreamforce last November, and I kind of missed the hotel block. It was like $629 a night for the hotel, right? So I looked it up on Airbnb, and there are places you could stay for like $400 or $500 for like the entire week, you know. So you can actually save a lot of money, and you know, find a new friend, right? Same thing with your car, relay rides. You can rent someone else's car. It probably helps out if you're trying to like buy a new car and you don't know how your car drives or whatever, or you want to see how it drives in like 2 or 3 years, right? So you can actually go in and rent someone's car for the weekend. And even TaskRabbit, does anyone know what TaskRabbit's about? You can rent people, pretty much, right? You can say, hey, I've got weeds in my lawn, I'm too busy, can someone come over and pull them for $50 or whatever, right? Or, you know, I'm stuck at home with the kids, I need a gallon of milk from the store. Hey, people at the store, bring me a gallon of milk, I'll give you $10 for it. And that kind of brings that to the next level. And what does that mean though, right? People are more and more likely to share, like 10 years ago, you wouldn't have shared your car with some random person that walked off the street, right? But now that's even, you know, more accepted. I think a part of that comes from kind of Zuckerberg's law. He says next year people will share twice as much as they share this year, and next year they will be sharing twice as, I think he says the same thing twice. But basically, every year you share twice as much on social as you did the year before. Now what does that mean though, right? You can actually kind of use that to your advantage. Well, some sharing is not so smart. So this is a Twitter account, need a debit card, and they actually retweet people that took pictures of themselves with their debit cards, numbers, and talent. Here is U.S. Olympian ski jumper Sarah Hendrickson. I don't want to get in trouble, so there you go. But yeah, like you should see some of the like responses. They're like, "Hey, I bet you'd even look better with the backside of the card," you know. So some sharing is not so smart, but as your organization, as your company, you can look into how using what people share can help out your company. So we've got Stacy over here, one of her best friends. Peter Shankman tweeted one day, he was flying from Newark. He had 2 stops in Florida, and he was flying back to Newark, all on the same day. So he realized, hey, he hadn't had like lunch or something. It was getting late in the day. He tweets out, hey Mortons, can you meet me at the Newark airport with a porterhouse and I land in 2 hours? Okay, thanks. Of course, not actually expecting them to. But in the course of 2 hours, Morton's corporate figured out what restaurant was closest, which happened to actually be in New York, 25 miles away. They had to approve the budget for it. They dispatched an order to that restaurant, and they drove out to baggage claim and met him at the airport. Oh my God, I don't believe it. Let me show you about that. You are with the warehouse. Share the picture. And that's what it looks like. Like the whole, like there's like shrimp over here. Like he got the whole like deal, right? And I'm sure it, you know, it helps that he has like 500,000 Twitter followers or something. But he wrote blog posts on it too. This has 405 comments on it. And I've shared this story like every single speech I do. So, you know, people are sharing info out there, whether it's even about your company, right? He could have not have mentioned Morton's, right? But people are out there needing your services, needing your stuff. If you're listening for it, then you're in a great position to be able to capitalize on that, right? Epictetus, I think is how you say his name. I ran that past my wife, and she's like, I think you're saying something obscene. But nature gave us one tongue and 2 ears, so we could hear twice as much as we speak. And he was, around thousands of years ago. But that applies still in today's digital world. 30% of all companies use social for customer service. 33% of all social posts are complaints about customers. So that happens to, or about companies, right? So that happens to work out pretty well. Here I was flying out to, North Carolina. I was speaking with Darren Bottom's PR class back in May. And I was looking at my boarding pass and it said, hey, you're going out of gate D1 from Terminal A. And I was like, that doesn't make sense, right? Terminal A has gates, right? So I tweeted out, hey, US Airways, I'm on flight 1204 out of IAH, looking at terminal maps, I don't see gate D, please help. So they actually responded, hey, gate D1's the arrival gate. There's no departure gate listed yet. Check back within 4 hours of your flight. Even the airport, Houston Bush Airport, got in on the conversation. Glad you figured it out. We were a little worried. And when I got to the Carolina Inn, I checked in on Foursquare. But notice the Foursquare check-in doesn't actually mention them on Twitter, right? It doesn't mention their Twitter handle. They were listening for that and said, hey, welcome. We hope you enjoy your time with us. So it's those little types of things that kind of, make your company stay in the mind of these people, right? Of your customers. When I was in San Francisco for another event, there was actually a hotel that gave you a bowl of fruit and like a nice little glass, or like a bottle of Evian, and a little note that said, hey, thanks for checking in. We hope you enjoy your stay with us too. So that's like even going to the next level of kind of personalization. How quickly should you respond on social? This was a little research done for negative posts on fast food company Facebook pages. So we have like Wendy's. I don't know why they have literally 37,900 negative posts. I don't know what they did. But their average response time was 2 minutes. I don't know how they did that, right? Pizza Hut was about 1,400 posts, an hour 15. Chick-fil-A, 1,100, an hour 25. So, obviously these guys have huger, that's not a word either, is it? Bigger budgets than everyone in this room combined, right? So feel free to take a little bit longer, but keep in mind that the average Twitter user can expect a response within 5 minutes. So what can you do? Think about how you can use sharing to make your business easier for sharing customers, right? So if they're going in to buy that gallon of milk for someone or whatever, like try not to hassle them too much. But you can even like see how sharing, I don't know, how do you say it? So you can see how like, this is a proposal from like Jeremiah Oye, so I'm not gonna steal his thunder. But basically it was, if you are a company like Marriott, you could then provide services to some of these sharing groups, right? So if you're providing space in your home via Airbnb, you could probably get some sort of certification from Marriott. You have like a certain kind of, a certain thread count on your sheets or whatever, a certain quality of experience there. So think about how you might be able to kind of, incorporate that into your own business, how you might be able to provide that, right? Maybe if people are too drunk to drive to the liquor store, you can provide a service that delivers.
Not in Oklahoma, people.
So, and then see if there's a value add type service you can add to the sharing platforms, like the Marriott example there. And think about how you can use oversharing and create amazing customer experiences. How many people go to Target and they ask you every single time, do you want the Target red card? It saves you 5%?
No.
No? They don't ask you? They ask me like every single time. Why do they ask you if you want the red card? Because they want to track your crap. Is that what you mean? Okay, so yeah, exactly, big data. So using large data sets, Target can actually predict if you're pregnant. And it's not going to the store and buying diapers. They figured out if you increase the amount of unscented lotion that you normally buy, right? Or if you buy a bag that's big enough to double as a diaper bag, that kind of thing, they can figure out not only if you're pregnant, but how far along you are, right? So this happened in Minnesota like 3 years ago. This dad, got a whole bunch of coupons for his teenage daughter that were all diapers and pacifiers and stuff like that. He marches into the store. He's like, "Why are you trying to promote this stuff to my teenage daughter? What are you trying to do?" And the store manager was like, "I don't really know. I'm sorry." And so he left, and he called back the next day. His daughter actually was pregnant, and he apologized for having blown up because there was stuff that was going on that he didn't know about. And now Target intersperses baby products into other stuff, so it's not as obvious right now. Do you need a quart of oil or some diapers? Or some But think about the huge amounts of data that you have access to just from your website, from your blog, from your inventory system, right? How can you use that info to figure out, trends in buying, in the buying, or like buying trends of your customers? And how can you use that to, more precisely target customers? Here's a little look at Google Analytics. If you can set up funnels, you can actually set it up so you can actually read off the different pages that feed into your shopping cart and which pages people exit from, right? So you can figure out how to kind of streamline this so they go all the way through to the thank you page, right? So you've got your cart, your form, your confirmation page, your thank you page. And so you can take a look at exactly what are some of the reasons that people are bailing out of your process and increase that close rate when people get to your website. Take a look at that. Here's my WordPress stats page. I guess I don't really get that many views. My wife actually gets like 5 times as many views as I do because she wrote one blog post on how to tell if you got a fake baby carrier. She has these baby, like she's a doula, and she gets, she got a baby carrier on eBay, and she was like, this looks kind of funny. So she bought a real one from the company, took pictures, and wrote a blog post over it. And that's the only reason. She's gotten like, so I've gotten a total of 73,000 views all time on my entire website. She's gotten like 150,000, and she's always like, "Aren't you like the social media guy? What's going on?" But my point here is, come down here and you can take a look at your top posts on your blog and your top pages that people go to, right? Those top posts, write more articles about those posts, right? So you can, if you can tweak the topics a little bit and write even better blog posts. So when you think about your shopping cart, think about this. If you have an Apple product, you have one button, right? If you have a Google product, you've got one search bar. Why does your order form look like this on your website? You need to do something about that, seriously. If you have access to data, like people logging into your website, that kind of thing, you should already have all that information. Don't make them fill it in again because they're not going to buy from you. That's why this is the most dangerous button in our house. I don't know about you guys. You don't have to fill anything out. You could be like half the time I'm kind of worried because I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and sometimes I play on the computer and I'm like stuff shows up randomly sometimes, and I'm not sure if the wife ordered it or if the kid ordered it. But what can you do? Use data wherever you can. Take a look at your paid search ads if you're on AdWords, right? Take a look at all those little pieces of data that you can figure out what terms and what words give you the best results there, right? Take a look at your Facebook page insights. You can see, exactly which posts came out whenever you had a whole bunch of unsubscribes, right? If you normally get like 1 or 2 unfollows, right, on your Facebook page, and all of a sudden you got like 20 in a day, you need to figure out what you posted that pissed off so many people, right? So go through, figure that out, and you can optimize that to make sure that you don't lose those prospects. Take a look at your Google Analytics, WordPress, everything, right? E-newsletter if you have one. but also provide autofill for your web shopping, your cart contact forms, and you can really even like personalize your content, right? I mean, if you remember from like Minority Report, he's like walking through the mall and they're like, hey, come buy jeans, right? You can almost do that with some of your products now. I actually looked up, it was this like high heel like tape dispenser from Office Max, because I sent it to one of my coworkers that was like, they were doing like an office supply order. I was like, hey, you should totally get this. But now every time I go on YouTube, it says, hey, you should buy this high heel like tape dispenser. And I'm like, oh, that's creepy, go away, you know. But, you know, think about how you can do that in a non-creepy way. Number 6, quantified self. Anyone know what that is? There you go. It is these 3 bullet points right here. It's basically, people are using devices to track themselves, right? Their health, movement. I've seen some Fitbits, I think, right? Nike Fuel Bands. Anyone have one of those? Anything? Yep, not paying attention.
Be here
Fitbit?
now.
I was tweeting about you.
Fitbit, there you go. So, and a lot of these devices seamlessly collect the data, and you can actually create these correlations or extrapolate, you know, data from that data, right? You can come to these different conclusions. So, one of my coworkers, his name's Chris Dancy, he goes by ServiceSphere on Twitter, says, if someone should own your data, it should be you. And here he is. And that's actually his Google Glass, not mine. But if you think like it's weird that like Cheryl like wears her Google Glass everywhere, you should meet this guy, because he literally has like 8 or 9 different devices on him at any time. It probably takes him like an hour at airport security. But, and here's some of them, right? So he's got his iPhone, his, you know, watch. He literally has multiple different, you know, like all the little pedometer things. He even has one that, like, if he slouches, it buzzes at him to correct his posture. He's got one that sits under his mattress and can detect how well he's sleeping based on how much he moves, you know? But yeah, he's got all these different devices that run in his house, and he has the ability, Mashable, this just came out like 2 weeks ago, calls him the most connected man in the world, right? He's been mentioned in Wired, Bloomberg TV. He just came back from the UK, I think, with like The Economist or something. So he's pretty cool to hang out with, because he's got these huge, amazing ideas. What does that data look like, though? So he takes all his data and he flows it all over into his Google Calendar. So when he, you know, when he's got like a decibel meter in his office, so he can correlate that with his Outlook calendar. So he can tell you which people on his calendar make him raise his voice the most, right? That also correlates with his pulse rate and his blood pressure. He can tell you what people he doesn't like actually meeting with, right? So he put this list together. What he found out when he mashed all this data together. Number 1, watch Project Runway to eat healthier. It's probably because all the people on Project Runway weigh like 50 pounds or something, right? But number 2, leave the house when the cleaning people are there. I don't know if that's like productivity-wise. Listen to Michael Jackson to finish a project. You can flow your iTunes playlist over. Go to bed before 10 if he doesn't have a meeting, and don't eat starches for 24 hours. Set lights to study. Temperature to 71 degrees, humidity to 31%, and music to no more than 71 beats per minute before 4 p.m. if he wants to be able to sleep that day. And he can take all that data from all those different pieces, or all those different devices, and string it all together and come out with this type of information. So know that there are people out there that are like that, but also, even if they're not to that degree, know that people are starting to get to that point, right? Even if you have like just your little Fitbit or something, people are starting to think about doing more and more with that data. And that's what he did with it. Between October 2012 and 2013, he lost 80 pounds. I gained like 20 pounds, so I guess I need to follow his lead there. So what can you do? Know that people want to connect to services to analyze their own data, right? So if you have, some sort of like, your little keychain scan tag, like your custom, like your little reward tag and stuff, maybe offer a way to get to that data for the actual customer to see what they're buying, right? So you have like My Lowe's, which is pretty awesome. You can go into My Lowe's and see, what paint did you buy 2 years ago in the living room? You need to order another quart of that. My Lowe's gives you the option to check that out, right? So that's really convenient. What kind of like weed whacker did you buy 2 years ago? Because now you need new string, but you forgot to bring it with you. You can go on their mobile app and see what model you got, so you can figure out what string thickness you need to get, right? So that just makes it a whole lot easier for people to deal with your company. That means what? You have to have more people come to your company. And see where you can add that kind of into your services, your store products, your online programs, to make it easier for people to just really have access to their data, right? To see where they can use that to incorporate that into other areas of their life. So what we talked about, where social media's been, there's been huge opportunity out there. You guys are doing a huge, taking a huge step if you're not there already by coming here, right? Learning. The future of social network consolidation, how all the different networks are starting to take each other over. Tool aggregation, how different tools are kind of phasing each other out and also taking each other over as well. Crowdsourcing, how you can invite your customer to be even a more integral part of your organization. The sharing economy, how people are really kind of allowing, they're sharing more of their personal space, which means they're more likely to share socially as well, and how you can really take advantage of that. That sounds kind of bad, right? But, and also big data, how you can analyze not just, your website stats, but how you can really use that to fill in stuff for your customers so they don't have to do it. And the Quantified Self with Mr. Nancy there. So thank you. I'm Eric Tutong on pretty much every single network. Feel free to connect. Website's erictutong.com, or if you text Eric Tutong 250500, you can get my my SMS business card. So with that, yay!
Anybody have any questions first? I know it's tough between the people and their liquor, but any questions for Eric before he runs off?
Okay, I have a question. Now, when you're doing, so in other words, for your friend who analyzed all of that data, okay, in a sense, because numbers are numbers, and until you really crunch them, they don't really have meaning. In a sense, how did he use? I mean, what was the point from taking all of those numbers of data into translating it into something meaningful?
Yeah, I think it's, it's really what you're trying to make out of it, right? So if you want to figure out, what do I watch on TV that makes me eat more? He figured out that was reality TV, makes him pick out or whatever. So, you can find, I'm sure you could, just chart it out, right? You've got Excel, you can take a look at different columns or data points or whatever, and you can kind of come up with your own ideas on that.
Anybody else?
Should I go back a slide? Is this too enticing?
No.
Alrighty.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. That was